Ruddle Maniacs. Welcome back to another episode of Ruddle Me This. I am your host, Taylor, the last samurai on the left, Ruddle, and we're back with another fantastic episode of Ruddle Me This. If you are joining us, coming from the Nerd Night talk that my guest for this episode just recently did, welcome to the show. I hope you enjoy yourself. Please take your shoes off at the door. To everyone else, welcome back. Lovely to have you with us. Today's topic of the podcast is we are going to be talking about the reality TV show known as Survivor. And my guest for this episode is a local up-and-coming stand-up comedian, Henry Hickman. And this podcast was basically Henry and I's first real interaction outside of maybe bumping into each other at a couple of shows. We really didn't know each other that well. And I think as you will see over the course of this interview, it's a bit like that scene in Step Brothers where they say, "Do we just become best friends?" As it became quickly apparent how much Henry and I had in common. He even shares a name with my beloved childhood family cat. But I digress. We are talking about the reality TV show Survivor today, of which Henry is a massive fan and, dare I say it, expert on the television show. It's all pretty much new to me. I was vaguely aware of the TV show before this podcast, and as you will learn, we ended up going very, very long and doing about 3 hours of recording in this podcast. So this is part 1 of 3 of Survivor with Henry Hickman. Hello, Henry. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, very welcome. It was quite an interesting and unexpected topic that you suggested, but I have friends that are equally as into it, and it's a little bit lost on me, so I think it could be illuminating for some people out there. So today, what are we going to be discussing, Henry?
We're going to be discussing the greatest reality TV show of all time, and possibly the greatest TV show of all time, Survivor.
Survivor. Well, I'll give you a little bit of what I know about Survivor, just based on the few times I've watched it on TV and everything. The show starts, each episode is generally in a different country. Is that correct?
Each season is in a different country.
Yeah. And they start off in 2 tribes, and then there is some kind of a mix-up at some point where they... I don't know if they combine them or if they just like shuffle them about. Something happens with the tribes.
Yep. So sometimes there's a tribe swap where they mix the 2 tribes together, and then about halfway through the game, there's a merge where the 2 tribes become one tribe.
Yeah. And the big famous thing from Survivor is Jeff Probst still the host?
Fuck yeah, he is.
And,
so am I allowed to swear on the podcast?
You swear all you fucking want, man. Cool. It's all good. He's the one that puts the cup thing over their fire and tells them they've been eliminated, right?
He snuffs their torch, as they say.
There you go. That, to me, that's the cornerstone of what the show is about, is the dramatic, because they all write on the piece of paper who they want to vote out, and they give like a little bit of a confession to the camera when they do it, right?
Yep.
And so they do challenges, and then I think the challenges determine who gets to eliminate who, or something like that, right?
So before the merge, the 2 teams compete in team challenges, and whichever team wins doesn't have to vote anyone out.
Oh, yeah.
And the team that loses has to go and vote someone out.
Gotcha.
Once they merge, they compete in like individual challenges, and so one person can't be voted out, and everyone else can be voted out.
Do they refer to that as immunity?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like we're chipping away at these memories of like I have watched it, but it's been so many years, and I'm just hearing the little sound bites and seeing my head people falling off of logs and all that kind of thing.
Oh God! If you want to know how terribly addicted I am, the falling off of logs challenge is either get a grip, which is where the logs are vertical, so they're standing upright, and they're at the top of the log and they slowly go down, or it could be one that was in Survivor Panama and Redemption Island where they sort of hang upside down on a horizontal log, and it's sort of like they're basically the same challenge, you're just oriented slightly differently. But that's how fucking addicted I am to this show.
Well, you've got your credentials there, man. That's what we want. Is we want people that they know what they know, and So did I miss anything from? Well, I don't really know what they win if they win Survivor. Do they win
Cool.
money?
They win $1 million.
Oh,
Um, well, in the US they win $1 million, but then taxes makes it 600,000.
yeah,
In Australian Survivor, which is sort of the only one we have in New Zealand now, we care a
yeah.
lot about Australia and not at all about what happens in the States.
Hmm.
They win 500,000. New Zealand had our own, as it always is with New Zealand versions of a show, budget version of Survivor, where they would win like $250,000, which I'm pretty sure would
Man,
almost get you a quarter of a mortgage in Auckland,
yeah, that's not a lot of
maybe.
money nowadays, is it?
And they still canceled it because it was too expensive.
Oh my goodness. Was that legit Survivor or was that Celebrity Treasure Island?
Celebrity Treasure Island replaced Survivor,
Right.
and I'm still mad about it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I
Uh,
never
every
enjoyed it
time
as
I
much.
every time I see Celebrity Treasure Island on TV, my flatmates insist on keeping it on because they know how much deeply and personally I hate that show
Oh my
for
goodness.
what it took away from me.
Yeah. So the question about Survivor, because they aren't celebrities in Survivor, are they? They're just like average people, right?
Yeah, so that's sort of the point of Survivor. It was the initial point of Survivor. We'll probably get into the evolution of the show later,
Yeah, yeah.
but it started out as a social experiment of what happens when you take people from entirely different walks of life and just put them on an island and make them betray each other and form a society. I will quickly
Yeah,
say one thing you missed, and one of the most important things about Survivor. After the merge, the people who get voted off go to a jury,
right.
and those people, when it gets down to the final two, vote for who they want to win.
Oh,
And so
right.
after the merge, the people that you've backstabbed and voted off and
Yeah.
made feel like shit are in charge of who's going to win the season.
Uh-huh. Right. So yeah, okay. Has that always been the case?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
That's one of the major cornerstones of Survivor.
Yeah. The I'm glad that you know about the start of this because one thing I find quite fascinating is that like reality TV is a relatively fresh phenomenon. Like it's been going for 20 years, but that's still kind of within our lifetime and it's
Yeah.
recent enough that you can see and like there's another TV show called The Real World, which is, you know, it's up there with the first few reality shows. I think maybe Big Brother might be another one. And there's probably a couple of others that I may have missed. Are you into reality in general? Or is it just Survivor?
It's mainly Survivor. I used to
Yeah.
watch The Amazing Race as a kid, but that's more a game show than a reality show.
Yeah, that's
Subtle
true.
differences where, because the difference between Survivor and The Amazing Race, aside from everything, is that it's not the people you vote off who decide who wins. It's whoever can ride a taxi the fastest. They get to win.
Yeah, less exciting than who can hang on to the log. But yeah, I always found that so fascinating, the concept of reality TV. A lot of these ones were sort of like with the approach of like, let's just see what happens. And then 20 years later, certain ones like Survivor and is Amazing Race still going?
It is, but it's still basically the same show.
Yeah. So then let's talk a little bit about maybe how the show has evolved during its
Cool.
time on the air.
Well, I'll start with this book that cool. My green screen means you can't see it. It's a book about Survivor, whatever.
Gotcha.
Just take my word for it. Um, and it's a book
Wait, that's a
by.
Hustler magazine.
Oh no, I've been caught out. It's a book by the executive producer and sort of the creator of Survivor, Mark Burnett.
Yeah,
And what's so interesting to read is how seriously they took it back then.
really.
Like, there's this one contestant on the first season, Greg, who was basically just a massive uh sort of camera pony. He'd like
Right.
ham it up and be
Yeah,
all
yeah.
dramatic and stuff. And Mark was like, Greg pretended to not care about Survivor, but deep down, I think it really hurt him when he was voted off. And Greg,
Ah,
to this day, is like, no, I just didn't give a shit.
right,
Mark
right.
Burnett is like trying so hard to sell that this is a super serious and important experiment he's doing, and it's changing the world and teaching us so much about humanity.
Ah, I see.
But his social experiment got ruined pretty much 5 days into the show
Right.
because
Season
I
one.
assume yeah, 5 days into season one. I assume you know about alliances on Survivor, how
Yes.
people they vote together and
Yeah,
they vote together.
I'm aware that people do it, but is it one of
Yeah.
those things where you just have to take their word for it? Like it's not an official, like you don't have a
Yeah.
contract or anything, right? You just have to trust
Yeah.
that they're going to do what they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And it's normally for strategy reasons or no, it's almost always for strategy reasons. I thought
Of
I could
course, yeah.
bullshit another reason, but it's always because you think you form a group and you think I have the best chance of moving forward in this game with this group of people.
Yeah, yeah.
But Mark, back in season one, people thought alliances were cheating.
Huh.
They were like, this isn't the point. The point of Survivor is that the best survivalist should win. That was the
Oh,
original
okay.
idea.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
form a society and the person who was just the best person
Yeah.
would be the winner instead of the person who strategically backstabbed the correct people to put them on the jury.
So there was no metagaming and as such in the first season.
Yeah, in the
Interesting.
first season, it was all completely new, and no one knew that alliances are a thing that should be formed. And
So
now on Survivor, if you go on and don't have an alliance within a couple days, you're like,
you fish
what are you
food.
doing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So back in the first season, people people used to just vote off like kind of, you know, oh that person did
yeah,
really poorly in the survival challenge, so I'll vote for them kind of thing.
yeah. Or one of
Huh.
my favorite examples, someone told a sexist joke and they voted off the person who laughed at it.
Wow.
They
So you
didn't
can
vote off the
get
person who told the sexist joke. They voted off the one who laughed at the joke.
this was in season one.
This was in season one.
Wow. That's bizarre.
Yeah.
I was gonna say as well, how many players are on each team? Does it vary or is it always kind of the same number?
It varies. So from seasons 1 to 7, it was always 8 people per tribe.
Uh-huh.
And then in season 8, they were like, okay, we'll try. No, sorry, 8 people. Yeah, 8 people per tribe, 16 on a season.
Yeah.
And then in season 8, All Stars, they brought back 18 people and put them on 3 tribes of 6. And now it's anywhere from 16 to 20. Never
Gotcha.
more than 20, though.
When they
Unless you're
are,
watching Australian Survivor, then it's 24, which is wild.
yeah, that's so many people.
Yeah.
When they're just on the island, are they collecting food and stuff for themselves, or is that kind of like I don't want to say provided for them, but is it the kind of thing where they actually have to knock coconuts out of trees and catch fish and all
Yeah.
that sort of thing?
So that depends on the season.
Yeah.
In all pre-season 40 of Survivor, in
Season
almost
40,
all of it,
did you say? Is this
yeah,
oh
there are
my
44
God.
seasons right now.
Wait, so how long has this show been going for?
2000, so about 2 seasons a year.
Oh my God, that's so surely that's wild because the WWE always go on about how Raw is like the longest running weekly episodic television show ever, and like it's only been going for 25 years or something like that.
Yeah, but
And
Survivor takes breaks every now and again
yeah,
because
yeah.
each season is about 14 episodes, and so there are 28 weeks a year where Survivor is on,
Oh my God.
and 24 really sad weeks.
Yeah. That's the those are the weeks when you got to go back to your box sets, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, I had no idea there was so many seasons of it because it must be comparatively fairly cheap to make compared to other TV shows, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. They give $1 million to the winner. And then something a lot of people don't know, there's a progressive pay scale on Survivor. So if you come second, you actually get $100,000,
Oh,
which
okay,
is
yeah.
less than 1 million. And
Yeah.
if you come dead last, you get 2.5 grand.
Oh, so you
Because
actually do get
people,
money for
yeah,
appearing on. Okay, yeah, yeah,
again, in the US version
yeah,
is the one
yeah.
that I specialize in. Um, but that's because people have to commit to being away from their lives for a minimum uh 50 days.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Even if you get voted out first, you're not allowed to go home because then that would spoil who got voted out first.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So if you get voted out pre-jury, you have to hang around until the jury starts, and then they send you off to like Thailand or something on a
Yeah,
holiday,
yeah. So,
which would actually still be a pretty good deal, to be honest. I'd take that.
I mean, it's definitely not a bad way to spend 50 days,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
they must happen really quickly then, right? Like if I'm messing up my speaking. If a season is around 12 episodes, how many days does that happen over?
So from season 1 to season 40, 39 days. And from season 41 onwards, we're in the post-pandemic era of
Yeah.
Survivor now. It's 26 days.
Wow.
It's really fast.
So that's
But also at the
really,
same
really
time,
fast to shoot. Yeah.
yeah. And then
Wow.
you put a week either side for pre-show, pre-show press and post-show press. And so
Hmm.
it takes them like let's call it 50 days to put together a season of Survivor.
Yeah. I'm not surprised at all this show has lasted for so long then, because that quite
Yeah.
often is just that's the deciding factor with TV shows is how much does it cost to make, how much does it make us, and then that's how sustainable a TV show is. I had no idea. In my head, they're on these islands for 6 months, and like it's like they, yeah. So yeah, you could easily do 30 days catching your like I could survive 30 days probably without eating once
Yeah.
the whole time. So yeah,
Yeah. So back when they did 39 days, generally they gave them some sort of like carbohydrate to sustain themselves, but it would
yeah, yeah,
equate to about 1 cup of rice a day,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
not a lot for a day, especially when you're doing physical stuff like
yeah.
building a shelter, competing in
You're hurling
challenges.
yourself at ropes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And then, but now with season 26, they give them literally no food because they, it's 26 days. If you can find some coconuts and papaya around and whatnot, and you might
yeah,
win
yeah,
some food on a reward, but you don't need
yeah,
to worry too much about someone dying of starvation within 26 days. They'll probably be
yeah.
fine.
What I quite like about seeing the evolution of reality shows, like, have you ever heard of this Japanese show called Terrace House?
I've not.
So it's a little bit of a controversial one to bring up, I suppose, because just recently, she's a pro wrestler, but she was on Terrace House. She sort of got like cyberbullied, and she unfortunately ended up taking her own life. So I think the
Yeah.
show probably, I imagine they're probably not going to keep doing it, but it's really interesting to watch them figuring out the kinks along the way. Like in season one, the narration in between all the reality bits was done. There was a I'm not quite sure what she was. I think she was an actress, or she might have been like just a general talent agent. She was kind of the host of the show, and she was just in the back of like a limo, and she was kind of talking about what's happening as they're driving around
Yeah.
in, I assume, Tokyo at nighttime or something. And then at some point during that season, they got a studio and they brought in other talents, and you can see little changes like that. Have there been any changes or things that they tried in the earlier seasons that they just never did again?
I'll go back to season one because
Please.
that really is a fun time. Um, throughout all of season one and a lot of the early Survivor, you just see Jeff Probst chilling with the castaways. He'll just come over and say hi. He'll come with them on rewards. He'll in season 8, this guy hooked up with this girl and they won a reward together. And Jeff Probst is like, all right, Amber, you get in the back. I'm gonna sit shotgun with Rob. And
Or
it's
to
so
like
funny.
chaperone.
Yeah.
Oh, so they wanted like a nice little romantic getaway, and Jeff
Yeah,
was
and then
like, "No,
Jeff
I'm
Probst
getting in
just
on
shows
this."
up. But another one in season one is that they have the tribal councils where everyone talks about what's going on,
Uh-huh.
but they had a problem that everyone was talking over each other.
Yeah,
And so they said, here's a conch shell. You can
yeah,
only talk if you have the conch shell.
like Lord of
And
the
that
Flies.
lasted, yeah, which was actually a big inspiration for Survivor.
Gotcha.
Um, and that lasted exactly 2 episodes, and then it was gone again.
How did they manage the cross-talking problem after that, if there was any solution to it?
I think they realized that it was actually pretty good TV having people argue with each other because
Yeah, people love
it then
drama.
went. It was again the problem in the start. They were taking it way too seriously.
Uh,
They were like, in season, I want to say season 4,
yeah.
there was a someone asked, "Can I whisper to this person what my plan is?" And Jeff said, "No. Anything at tribal council must be said publicly."
Uh-huh.
And now it is a massive surprise if one tribal council goes by without someone whispering to someone else.
Oh, interesting. So they
Like
do
it's
they do allow changes as they go on. I guess because it
yeah.
makes better TV, doesn't it?
I might go through the sort of eras of Survivor
Yeah,
to
please go
give you
for
an
it.
idea.
Yeah, yeah.
So season 1 through 8 is the early seasons of Survivor, basically. It's pretty standard, but they do get quite experimental. In season 3 was the
Yeah.
first tribe swap, where they swapped the tribes up, and they kept that around for a bit. Season 6, they tried men versus women as a theme. That season is hard to watch nowadays because it's like a bunch of men being super sexist
Oh
and talking about
God.
how much they want to date the women, and
Oh dear.
it's so weird watching in 2023.
I
That was
suppose that
probably,
sort of thing would have been like fresh and oh
yeah,
crazy, whoa,
perfectly
shocking
normal to be
TV.
sexist in 2003.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of it's probably not aged well at all, has it?
Yeah. Season 8 is the first time they brought back returning players.
Yep.
Season 7 was probably the first big villain, first big controversy where someone lied about their grandma being dead
Was that
to,
Johnny Fairplay?
it was Johnny
So I'm
Fairplay.
vaguely familiar with him. Yeah.
Yep. He lied about his grandma dying to get further in the game. Uh, and what's really funny is that everyone at the time hated him, and nowadays he's one of the most popular ones because it's so iconic.
He's become sort of
Back,
like a mainstay in reality TV, hasn't he?
yeah, yeah, he's very, very funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people hate him. Some people love to hate him. I think he did pro wrestling for a bit
I think
as
that's probably
Johnny
why I
Fairplay.
kind of know of him. I know he did Fear Factor where there was a wrestler on it and they got into like a scuffle. He was heckling someone as they were doing the challenge, and I think she pushed him or punched him or something. And then her and her husband were yelling at each other, and the Miz tried to sort of break it up. And I think Johnny Fairplay got like hurt or something. And Joe Rogan, who
Oh
does like
shit.
MMA and stuff, is like, breaking it up. And it was a whole, yeah, I think that might have been my first sort of like first time I'd seen him. Yeah.
Was that around 2008-ish, do you
That
reckon?
sounds about right. Yeah. I couldn't
Because
say for
talking about,
sure, but that
holy
sounds
shit,
correct. Yeah.
talking about fun tangents, you might have brought up a fun behind the scenes fact about Survivor. Johnny Fairplay came back in season 16 and he said he got voted out first. He asked to be voted out because he said, "Oh, my girlfriend's back home pregnant and I shouldn't have come out here while she
Right.
was pregnant." What actually happened behind the scenes, he had a broken jaw from that event.
All
And
right.
they said to him, "You can have your pain medication." And then they got to the island and they were like, "Actually, no, you can't have your pain medication."
Oh, man. What a
And he was like,
swerve.
that sucks. And
Yeah.
then someone else who was on the season was allowed to have nicotine patches because he was a recovering smoking addict. And
Right.
Johnny Fairplay was like, "What the fuck? I'm out of here."
Yeah. Do people ever try to smuggle things onto the island?
Yes, in season 8, someone
Yeah.
smuggled matches up their butt. Um,
Oh man.
Recently, a quite iconic Survivor player turned OnlyFans model admitted that he sewed a magnifying glass into his shorts to start a fire with.
Wow. That's
Um,
industrious.
there were some rumors in season 37, completely unsubstantiated, and I'm pretty sure false,
Right.
that Mike White of Emoji Movie and the White Lotus fame, he was on Survivor, um, had THC smuggled to him by his boyfriend.
Right.
I'm pretty
That's,
sure that's not actually true, but that's one of the rumors.
I wonder how that's going to help you in the island survival
Being
situation,
able to
right?
sleep easier
That's
is
true.
a massive thing.
Yeah.
Mike White being on Survivor, that being how I know him, always trips people up. People are
So
like, "Oh, have you seen The White Lotus?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love Mike White. He was on Survivor."
so was that like that would have been the point when they were allowing celebrities on, or was that kind of his claim to fame was Survivor?
No, so celebrities are always they're allowed to apply. There's nothing stopping them from being on. If they're fans of the show, they can apply.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
Mike White is just a massive fan, and
Yeah.
he wanted to be on, so he applied.
Gotcha. Oh, that's great. I
I'll
remember John
try.
Morrison from WWE was on one season,
He
wasn't
was on
he?
the same season as Mike White.
Was he really?
Yeah,
What did he call? What did John Hennigan's his
Johnny
real name?
Nitro,
Oh, he was Johnny Nitro on the show.
mayor of Slamtown.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
was a great era for him. Like he really found his character. I was watching him on another show called Lucha Underground, which was we don't need to get into that, but like yeah, that's when he came up with the whole Mayor of Slamtown gimmick. And I
yeah,
remember a lot of people came around to liking him on the show because he was apparently came across quite well in the season of Survivor he was in.
yeah. And well, he was a phenomenal. Just like he wasn't great at the strategy. He was a bit under edited, and
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll have time to get into the whole editing of Survivor interesting new stuff, but he was a real stand-up dude, and he had this really good confessional about how, people know me as a celebrity. They know me as uh, mayor of Slamtown, Abraham Lincoln, a bunch of other stuff, and he was like, "But out here, I'm just trying to be John,"
Yeah.
which was really cool.
Yeah, that's great. He would have been
Uh,
really good at all the physical challenges because I know he does parkour and he's in like insanely good
yeah,
shape. And yeah, he would have been an
yeah,
asset
he
for
was
them.
really good at all of those challenges.
Yeah.
That's why they voted him off at the Merds, or pretty close to it. They're
Yeah.
like, right,
Yeah. He's going to be a
he is
problem
going to win.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I'll try and get back to the eras. We
Yeah,
got up to
please.
season 8 before we went on a tangent. Season 8 is the first time they brought back returning players,
Mhm.
and then we get into the experimental era, as I call it, which I say goes from season 9 to season sort of 12, 13.
Uh-huh.
Because in season 9 they did men versus women again, but then really tried to ham it up to make the men and women hate each other.
Oh no.
Um, Season 10 was the first time they had a tribe get knocked all the way down to one person. Um,
Love it.
that tribe just lost every single challenge.
Oh
That
my
was
goodness.
really funny to watch.
Yeah.
Season 11 was the first time they brought back returning players mixed with newbie players.
Yeah.
And season 12, they brought in the hidden immunity idol for the second time. It was technically in season 11, but worked differently. Season 12 was the first canceling votes iteration of the immunity idol.
Yeah. Yeah.
I shouldn't list every experiment, but they were so experimental in this
Yeah.
era. Season 13, this will blow your mind. They did a race-based season. They did white people versus black people versus
What?
Asians versus Latinos.
Did they seriously do that?
They seriously did that.
Oh my goodness. Well, what
There's
year
a
did that
th
happen in?
That would have been either 2006 or 2007.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me as much. I thought if it was like 2010s, I'd be like, oh, come on, guys. Like, what
They
was that
lost
all about?
almost all their sponsors off of that.
Did they
I think
really?
Coca-Cola
Yeah.
stopped sponsoring them.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There's a theory that Jeff wanted to quit Survivor at that point if he was trying
He
to
was
get the
trying to
show
kill his
canceled.
own creation.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I suppose you got to do what you got to do to get fired, right? Because
yeah,
they're not gonna let him go from Survivor, right? Like
yeah,
he's probably kind of in it for life at this point, isn't he?
yeah. He's almost 70, I'm pretty sure,
Is he
at this
really?
point. Yeah, I'll
Wow.
double check that. He is 61, so getting there.
Wow. I wonder how much longer he's going to keep doing it for.
Probably until he dies, I reckon.
Yeah. All right, we went on another tangent. Continue with
Yep.
your
So
list.
it's the experimental era, and so season 14 they tried a haves versus have-nots thing. They literally
Right.
said one tribe we will give literally a coffee press, a bed, a sofa, like you can build a house. You'll have toilet paper,
Uh-huh.
and another tribe we will give nothing. Let's see if they
Wow.
can pull themselves up by their bootstraps and win.
Wow.
They couldn't.
I'm starting to understand the social experiment aspect of Survivor now with these kind of
Yeah.
experiments they were doing. Yeah.
Season 15, they finally went back to normal. So from season 15 to season 18 is a sort of more normal Survivor. You have
Yeah, yeah.
you did have fans versus favorites in that, which was the first time they did half returnees, half newbies.
Yeah.
That was good. It's a pretty
Mm.
iconic season. People say that Gabon, which is season 17, is like what happens if you want to watch people really bad at Survivor play Survivor. But aside from that, it's a pretty normal season.
I was gonna
And
ask at
then
some point, like, is there a season you would recommend somebody to watch who likes the idea of getting into Survivor but isn't
yeah,
quite sure where to start? Like, is there any one kind of like this is the one
yeah.
to watch?
I'll say there's a lot of contention about this. Some people say start with season 7 because it's the best older season.
Uh-huh.
But I think that doesn't give you enough context for new Survivor. So I'm going to say season 18,
So even
which is
18.
token scenes.
It's what now, sorry?
That Survivor token scenes.
Oh, yep, yep, yep.
Impossible to spell. But
I'll
that's a
chuck a
pretty
link to it
classic season of.
in the description, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty classic season of Survivor. Uh, if they want something slightly more modern, season 28, Brain versus Brawn versus Beauty, which we'll
I
get to the
remember the
themed seasons
promotion.
later.
I remember the promo for those. I remember really clearly the heroes versus villains their series. I remember
Yep,
all the ads for it. I don't know what it used to play on TV here, but I used to always see them, yeah.
yep. So we're about to enter the Russell Hantz era. If do you know that guy?
I don't know. What does that mean?
All right. Russell Hantz was the biggest phenomenon on Survivor. Some would
Oh,
say that he saved the show.
right.
He
Okay.
he came in and he was like, I am just going to be a massive dickhead to everyone.
The heel.
Like he basically, yeah. He stole people's socks and threw them in the fire. He poured out people's water. He like hid the machete. And
Yeah,
his theory
yeah.
was that if he controls how they think, he can control how they act.
Uh-huh.
And so he thought if I can make everyone super depressed and miserable, then they'll be easier to control.
My goodness.
And this was
That's so
so
dark.
it was really dark, but this ended up with like he got this massive edit. He had like 100+ confessionals, and the winner of that season only had 19. Like it was
Right.
such a massive phenomena.
Well, I'm
And then
thinking,
he came back for Heroes versus Villains as a
yeah, I can
villain,
imagine.
obviously.
Imagine he was on that side. So I just see the Zoom meeting. We've got about 10 minutes left.
Okay, I'll
Maybe we
run through
should
the
break.
rest of the era,
Well, we could break this
maybe.
into a two-parter if you've got time
I
and you have
I've
time.
got time. Yeah.
Okay, so
If you're
listeners,
interested to keep listening to me talk about
yeah,
Survivor,
it's
stay tuned.
fascinating to me. Okay, so folks, we're gonna have what can you sort of cover in 10 minutes? You reckon the rest of this list you're going through?
Yeah, I reckon I can get
All right,
through the
let's do
rest of
that.
the
And then
eras, maybe.
listeners, check back in the weeks to come and check out part two of this interview. So take it away, Henry.
Cool. After Russell Hantz revives the show, it then immediately tries to kill itself again.
Right.
Um, they go through what is called the Dark Ages, where every single season is basically them trying to engineer one specific person winning. Like
Right. Okay.
they bring back a bunch of they bring in a bunch of celebrities to try and boost the show. They bring back a bunch of returning popular players, and that goes on for a bit. That's where I got into Survivor. I'll talk
In the
about me
Dark
getting into
Ages.
Survivor in the second part. Yeah. Imagine
Interesting.
watching the worst season of a TV show and going, fuck, this is so cool.
There's nowhere to go but up from there, so it's
Because
probably the
there
best
was
time to
nowhere to
get
go
in.
but up.
Just a short interjection. The way you're talking about this show reminds me a lot of the way wrestling companies are. They often will have these pivotal figures who will like quite often bring the company out of a massive slump, and then the person gets injured or they leave to go do acting or something happens and they leave. Like WWE has only just recently, I feel like, gotten good again, and weirdly enough, it's because John Cena actually left, and it seems like they've had no choice but to push their other stars, and it seems like it's working out for them because like that company was like so firmly on his back for the last sort of 20 years, and now that he's gone, I
Yeah.
think they've gone, oh crap, we actually need to like promote other people. So it's really fascinating to hear about the ebb and flow of Survivor with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I won't keep going with that, and I'll shut up.
Well, we might have to split this into this section into two parts, but
We can
because
just pick it up.
Yeah, Russell Hantz over the course of four, no, 5 seasons, no, 4 seasons. Over the course of 4 seasons, he played in three of them. There was
Wow.
WrestleMania going on at Survivor.
No kidding.
He was a hit, and they went,
Yeah.
we are going to milk him dry.
Yeah.
The season after
Run
Russell
until the wheels come
Hantz's,
off, right?
yeah, well, after his third season, on the next season, they were like, he doesn't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
Fuck it, get his nephew on. And so then his nephew was on for a season.
Yeah.
And his nephew, they edit this arc of the nephew trying to redeem the family name.
Right, right.
And then 2 seasons later, they bring the nephew back. And funnily enough, when they finally stop bringing back Hans people is when Survivor gets good again.
Huh.
It's possibly similar to the John Cena thing. They focused on the wrong aspect. They ran it into the ground.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were like,
Well, Rey Mysterio, are you familiar with him?
oh, that's one of the only wrestler names I know.
So Rey
Yep.
Mysterio's son, Dominic Mysterio, they brought him into like Rey's. It's weird because Rey's actually in a good part of his career. He's had so much stem cell treatment on his knee, which was giving him trouble
God
for
damn.
years, that he's actually back. And they brought in his son, which is Dominic. And initially, they were doing this story where Dominic was like teaming with his dad and helping his dad in the feuds, and like he was wearing a costume that was really similar to his dad's. And people were just like, it's so boring. Like, we don't care about this. And then Dominic joined this faction called the Judgment Day, who are like, you familiar with Rhea Ripley? She's very popular with TikTokers and like Gen Z and stuff right now.
Nah, I'm not
She's
really.
like,
Sorry.
I think she's what people would consider a muscle mommy. She's like
Yeah.
very goth. She's like
Hell
jacked.
yeah.
She's got piercing. She's got black hair. Like I think honestly, apart from John Cena, Rhea Ripley is the most popular wrestler at the moment. And so Dominic joined their faction, and like they were just this sort of group of hooligans that were like they were heels, but they were all clearly like looking out for each other. And Dom was
Yeah.
weirdly this like missing piece that like helped the crew come together, and it became like an act that people wanted to see. And then
Yeah.
they leaned into him sort of like potentially being Eddie Guerrero's illegitimate son. He's just been doing like his own thing, and as soon as he got away from trying to like everything of his character was to do with his father, people loved him now. And so, like, yeah, I imagine it's that same thing.
Yeah.
They're trying to engineer the story that they want with this guy's nephew, Russell's nephew, was it?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then the nephew just stopped coming back. Is that what happened?
Um, we'll talk about the intricacies of returning players. They only bring them back every now and again, but with
Yeah,
his
yeah,
nephew in particular, he got into a massive fight with the producers and he threatened to beat people up, and they ended up informally kicking him off the show, and they've sort of blacklisted the entire Hans family after that because then Russell went on Twitter and started saying a bunch of shit.
yeah,
It
yeah.
even leaked into other reality TV show.
Oh,
Uh, some sort of Hans, I think Russell's brother or cousin was on Big Brother, and he got
yeah.
ejected for headbutting someone.
Oh my goodness, this family are just a bunch of maniacs.
They had their own TV show for a bit called The Hans Show because of
Yeah,
how famous they were from Survivor.
yeah,
Uh, and it sort of drove the show to the ground. Real quick before I know we probably need to end this part soon, but
yeah,
does
yeah.
the
Go
name
for it.
Ashley Massaro ring a bell
I've heard
from
the name. Yeah.
WWE? Yeah, she was also on Survivor and Survivor China, and she was a wrestler from 2005 to 2008.
Yes, that
That's the end of the story.
I believe I wasn't watching at that time, but I definitely have heard the name. Yeah,
Yeah,
and she was on Survivor too.
yeah,
Gotcha. Well, let's wrap this half up here. The
cool,
Zoom is about to
cool,
run out, so thanks for joining
cool.
us
No
for
problem.
part one, Henry. We'll be back very soon for part two. But yeah, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you soon.
Hey, see you soon. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
And we are back again. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed the conversation. I found it really informative. I find the whole idea of reality TV a fascinating human experiment, and it's really cool to learn about how the format of the TV show changed. And I think Survivor is one of those interesting cases of you can train people to a certain extent, but you can't fight against human nature. So like I said before, that was part 1 of 3. I'm not going to release them all in one go just to oversaturate the market with Survivor content. We will have next week, I think, is going to be a breakdown of my recent comedy tour with David Correos. As of the time of this recording, I am sitting at home and we have got 4 or 5 shows left on the tour out of our 22 show run. Tonight's show, we are going into Little Andromeda on the Terrace to go and do that. I'm really, really looking forward to doing a show there again. Fantastic little theatre. But by the time this episode drops, I believe the tour will have come to an end. So definitely check in next week if you want to hear all my thoughts about the whole process of booking a South Island-wide comedy tour. What was good, what could have been done better, and just general our insights. I think David's going to join me on it. I'm not quite sure. We might tee that up if we can. So if you've come from a show and you're actually listening because of one of those little flyers I handed you after one of the shows, I really appreciate you taking a punt and jumping on board. I hope you're enjoying the podcast, and I hope you'll keep listening for many years to come. If you need more Henry in your life, you can find him on just Facebook at the moment, Henry Hickman Comedian. As always, I am at Taylor Ruddle Comedy on all the platforms except for Twitter. And I think that's basically all the plugs that I have to do at the moment. As always, Laugh Cellar every Thursday except for the last Thursday of the month at Austin Club. On the last Thursday of the month, join us at Sprig and Fern Merivale. 2 absolutely fantastic little comedy shows for you to join us at. We've got quiz night every Tuesday night at Bridie's Bar and Grill, and every Wednesday night at Moi Moi. We unfortunately had to cancel the Black Pearl quiz night as it just wasn't picking up enough steam, so that one for now is not happening anymore. But I don't want to say too much, but I think I might have something quiz adjacent and very, very exciting to announce very soon on Tuesday, so keep an eye on the Can Do Comedy Facebook page for that announcement. The only other thing I've got to plug is I am going to be in Auckland over the next end of this week, heading up on Wednesday to I'm heading up to see Phil Wang at Sky City Theatre. So if you can catch me in the audience at Sky City Theatre on Thursday night, and then I am going to be doing a short spot at the Wednesday show at the Classic Comedy Club at, I believe the show is 7:30. You might have to check the Classics website. But I am going to be rambling away on that comedy show. Really looking forward to that. I really enjoy gigging there. And looking forward to doing some of the new stuff I've worked out on this tour for the people of Auckland. Don't know if you heard that, but that was a siren going past in the background. so because of that, I must bid you adieu. I'm going to get going. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I really appreciate every single one of you that tunes in to listen to my nonsense week after week. The podcast has been growing, albeit steadily, so all I can do is just keep creating them and tell your friends, leave a review, all that good stuff. Really helps me out. So with that, catch you next time. Thank you so much for listening. Ruddler out.